This video may be very fascinating for some of you, and for others of you, it might just be too far out. So, just a note for what you're expecting to hear right now. But there's some really fascinating research combining, say, traditional spirituality, quantum physics, and neuropsychology or neurobiology. And there are two things, or two, I guess you'd say, qualities of consciousness that have always played a role in human evolution or human development. And now they're becoming more apparent and being looked at under the microscope of science, and in addition to being looked under the microscope of, say, contemplation or meditation. And these two ideas are the non-ordinary states of consciousness and then non-local consciousness. So you have non-ordinary and non-local consciousness. Now, what do those two things mean? You have non-ordinary just means something that is different than everyday consciousness, right? So you have, say, trance states, or you could argue that maybe dreaming would be a non-ordinary state of consciousness. Any deep state of relaxation, flow state, anything where your perception of reality or time or physical space is different than the quote-unquote norm, right? And that is a unique way of looking at how we perceive reality. And there's a lot of ways to experience non-local states of consciousness and lots of uses for non-local states of consciousness. It can be said that, a lot of the great discoveries in the modern world, whether you're talking about the discovery of the atom or special relativity or the invention of the light bulb or creative works of art, that things have been discovered when the mind has let go of what's called the default mode network, which is kind of your ordinary, I have to do this, that mindset. And the mind is either allowed to wander. It could be something as simple as going for a walk and allowing your mind to wander, or going into some deeper trance state guided through breath or some other substance, right? And like an herbal substance or whatever. The idea is that some inventions or many inventions and revelations in human consciousness have been discovered through what are called non-ordinary states of consciousness. And the practical application for us is how we learn how to engage with non-ordinary states of consciousness in a way that can be useful and profound and grounded and integrated into the rest of our everyday life. And that can be a major source of inspiration, motivation, and habit change. So that's the first thing, non-ordinary states of consciousness. Then the next is non-local consciousness. And all that non-local consciousness means is that traditional brain science is starting to discover that consciousness isn't necessarily located only in the brain, that consciousness itself is more of a frequency or an embodiment of the energy, the fabric of nature, of the space-time matrix, that consciousness really is what makes up reality, or that consciousness exists on a plane beyond just the belief that it exists like in our brains. So what that means is that when you meditate, or when you go into a state of deep relaxation, or when you do deep creative work, or you're inspired, the idea is that you're able to tap into this realm while leaving the consciousness of your body to either be fully relaxed or to be in flow with the movement that you're going through. and your consciousness is able, or you are able to put your attention fully on a higher level or a higher order of consciousness beyond the physical. And so by tapping into that realm of ideas, you begin to experience that which is non-local consciousness. There are a lot of really fascinating programs and studies that have been done on non-local consciousness in terms of, say, distance healing. For example, Edgar Cayce was a assistant to President, I think, Woodrow Wilson, and helped form the League of Nations with the advice of Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce is known as the sleeping prophet, and he was able to heal people at a distance using non-local consciousness. And the idea is that he used non-ordinary states of consciousness, tapped into a trance state in which he was able to first heal himself when he was a little kid, and then later on use that to basically, just by knowing someone's name and their address, heal them of whatever condition they were struggling with. He has over 14,000 documented cases. And so Edgar Cayce is a really fascinating example in modern times of non-ordinary states of consciousness and using non-local consciousness. Another one is Bob McMoneagle Joe McMoneagle. He ran Project Stargate, or he was the psychic for Project Stargate, run by the CIA and Stanford Research Group. Him along with Russell Targ were able to show that you can practice remote viewing, either viewing things at a distance psychically, or looking into the future, or perhaps even the past, to see how events transpire. And this was all verified by the government as being a legitimate source of research. Not always perfect. I think they had maybe 50% accuracy, but the idea is that there was a very strong correlation between the ability to tap into information and seeing things at a distance. Another one related to that, Joe McMoneagle's father-in-law, Bob Monroe, Monroe Institute, Journeys Out of the Body, the Journeys Trilogy book series, fascinating about out-of-body experiences and being able to travel to different places, different dimensions, while basically his body was resting, not asleep, and then teaching other people how to do that. So if you're curious about these things, you can look up the Project Stargate, or the Monroe Institute, or Edgar Cayce. Obviously, all around the world for long periods of time, people have been experiencing with non-local, non-ordinary states of consciousness, especially for healing, such as shamanism with the ayahuasca shamans in the jungle of the Amazon, the yogis in the Himalayas, practice, leaving the body. The Dalai Lama has even said, there's very specific practices where you separate your consciousness from the body to be able to experience different realms or different dimensions. And the idea is that there's a way to practically integrate all of this information into your life in a way that is useful and grounded and can benefit all of humanity. So that's the idea with sharing this information, is that it really does work when you use it properly. And that's will also serve you the best in the long run, because we remember that everything is a mirror, and that when we reflect love and we reflect generosity and in integrity of our intentions, then we receive that back. So that's something that we can all work on together and support each other on. So I look forward to hearing from all of you, and Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.